This is Lauren Steiner, and I'm back with a second edition of Robust Opposition today because I'm fortunate enough to have an activist who is on the ground in Milwaukee, Wisconsin right now in front of a voting line. I'm with Amy Thomas. How you doing, Amy?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm all right. So what are you seeing there?
Well, I've been here multiple times throughout the day to check on the lines and see how everyone's doing. And the lines have not let up. So they're at least 4 blocks long right now, and they've seemed to be consistently about that long.
Do you observe that people are social distancing? Because it doesn't look like that to me.
No, I don't feel like they are. And that I noticed that right away. There are some people that feel you can kind of tell that they're attempting to, but there really isn't any. There's no 6-foot social distancing going on.
So they didn't bother to mark like marks on the sidewalk or anything?
I'm not sure if they anticipated this many people, to be honest with you. So they may have the very beginning of the line, but clearly not through the park and around the corner. They have not.
Do you notice anybody wearing masks or gloves?
I would say about 75% of the people are wearing masks and maybe 20% of the people are wearing gloves.
Now, did you yourself vote today in person or did you vote absentee?
I voted absentee about 2 weeks ago.
So you don't really know what it's like to go in there and what precautions they're taking?
I do not. I do know that they were really struggling to get any volunteers to even help them. So they had to call in the National Guard.
What machinations went on behind the scenes to try to stop this election? Because I was posting, it's on again, it's off again, it's on again.
You are probably just as confused as the rest of us, to be honest with you. Governor Evers, I feel like he waited till the last minute to put in a stop. And when he did, immediately the Supreme Court called and they denied it. And not only did they deny that, they denied the extended absentee voting. So all of the ballots have to be post-dated by today and returned no later than this Friday at 4 p.m.
My understanding from reading this and reading Ben Wickler's extensive Twitter threads,
right,
the chairman of the Wisconsin Democratic Party, is this all has to do with a Republican Supreme Court judge. Can you give a little background on that?
I can say that there's probably some accuracy in that. I believe that it has more to do with local politics than it does presidential politics. One of the other things that we voted on was in relation to local gerrymandering. And the Republicans definitely have a lead up on this. I mean, I can't say for sure, but I feel like that's where it's going.
The Republican, is in control of the Senate, that guy Voss.
Yes.
He was the one that, Evers asked him to reconvene on Saturday, which he did do.
They didn't bother to show up when Evers called on Friday, if I'm understanding it correctly. And then they went back in, but they didn't meet face to face. They met virtually because it wasn't safe to meet face to face.
Yeah, so they're taking precautions for themselves, but not for the voters. You live in Milwaukee. Talk about the demographics of Milwaukee, because my understanding is the kind of city that would go for Bernie.
Actually, Milwaukee last time around was the only county that did not go for Bernie in the state of Wisconsin.
Let me see if I can guess why that is, because you have a very high percentage of African Americans, and they were supporting Hillary.
That is correct. And I feel like we may be leaning that way again. It's hard for me to tell here. We've been driving through with signs on the car and honking and waving. It feels like we're getting a lot of support, but it's hard to say, And I don't know the percentage of people that actually have mailed out their ballots. So they're absentees.
Tell us the difference between how the Bernie campaign and the Biden campaign approached voting in Wisconsin.
I haven't seen anyone on the ground at all working for the Biden campaign. I work very heavily as a volunteer here for the Bernie campaign. I have 2 large digital billboards up. I pass out signs every week. I'm giving flyers out, even though we're in the middle of a pandemic. I'm slipping flyers into newspaper boxes so that people can get the information. And I have never once seen a Biden sign, nor have I ever met a Biden supporter here in the city of Milwaukee.
Except for California, all the other Super Tuesday states went for Biden. And then the following Tuesday, all the states went for Biden. And these are even states that Bernie won last time. Based on who you're talking to and what you're reading in the paper, Are you thinking that Milwaukee and the state of Wisconsin will go for Biden as well?
Milwaukee is the most segregated city in America. And a lot of African American people are leaning towards Biden because of Obama.
I read something in the newspaper today that Milwaukee is having more deaths from the coronavirus. I just saw the headline. I didn't read the article, but I would imagine that's because the people who are dying have these other conditions, one of which is diabetes. And I know diabetes is overrepresented in the African American community.
A lot of the people who live in the city can't afford or don't have jobs where they can work from home and be isolated. So a lot of people, like when we personally, my family, when we order groceries, it is always a person of color. So I'm wondering if it isn't because the people of color have less income and are forced to work outside of the home. But I think it's an absolute poor choice for us to be doing this. And then to be going from 180 whole sites in the city of Milwaukee down to 5 is ridiculous.
You want to put on your mask and talk to people from a safe distance.
And what is it that you would like for me to ask them?
Why are they out here committing suicide?
Can I ask you, were you at all nervous about coming down here to vote today?
My cousin is running for mayor, Nina Taylor.
I know exactly who she is.
Bernie Sanders, I vote for him because he knows me because I'm a musician.
And because he cares about us.
Exactly. So he doesn't stretch his arms for nothing.
That is right. So
Yeah.
how do you feel about all of the people that you see here? Do you feel like safety precautions were taken?
Yeah, very safety taken. And I'm praying for them because I'm from church.
Right.
I'm a believer of God.
Good for you.
I'm praying for all, especially the ones who died, sacrificed their life for this virus, that they are be saved up in heaven. And I'm so excited that to come and be a part of this is my neighborhood. I'm also a former basketball player from the Bucks in the 80s.
Shut up! That's so cool.
Yeah.
Oh, very cool. What precautions they're taking inside? Do they have plexiglass between
Hear her?
Yeah, I can
them
do it.
and the poll workers?
You and
Yes,
the
it
poll
is.
workers. There is plexiglass, yeah.
And are they
Yeah.
wiping?
Every time, a person leaves, I come in, they wipe the tables. Yeah, so they got, and even they got parts where they could check and see if you have any virus.
Okay. That's
That's
impressive.
a good thing.
Yeah.
And everything. So,
Ask him if he was nervous at all about coming out to vote.
I was not nervous.
He was not nervous.
I was excited.
Put on a mask.
Oh, I'm gonna do that now. It's just my mask is broke. I got to get it fixed.
Oh, yes.
Okay.
So,
I would like to give you a high five for voting for Senator Sanders. So I'll do an air high.
I'll do that.
All right, let me just put my mask on and you can take a peek at the line. It looks like somebody is handing out food because they're all eating pizza. She would like to know why you are willing to risk your life to vote today.
I feel like I'm risking my own life that much, honestly. But, voting's important, and the election process is, also important to people's lives. People die if you don't vote. Too.
Exactly.
So if you're too sick and you're worried about getting infected, you shouldn't be out.
She would like to know if you're willing to share who you are voting for.
Bernie, baby.
Fuck yeah! So just out of curiosity, have you seen any of the billboards in Milwaukee?
Which ones?
There's a couple billboards we put up, Medicare for All.
Oh, sure, yeah. Are you on that team? I don't know.
No, I just did it on my own.
Ask him if he's discouraged about the way the primaries have gone since California.
A lot about the government's been disappointing me lately, I think, for a lot of people. And it's not just like the last year, it's been the last few years. This whole system has been kind of put on the federal government all at one time. And there's kind of a lot going on, there's the census, there's the virus, of course. We just had, a bunch of hurricanes last year. We've got a lot of emergency, monetary shortages and all kinds of things. So I'm willing to give the government a little slack on the primaries going kind of awry this year. But I really hope that they'd at least figure out a better system for emergency elections in the future.
Okay, so why are you out here risking your life to vote?
I got to say my piece in any way I can, I guess.
Right.
So, and with the election later this year too. So you got to do it.
Ask her why she's voting in person and didn't do absentee voting.
Because I never got one.
Which is
Multiple times.
extremely common, Lauren. I didn't mention that, but I was part of the crew that was sending out or maybe not sending out, but texting people to have them request absentee ballots. Only 55% of the people that requested them have actually received them and turned them back in.
I saw a picture on Twitter of an envelope and a piece of paper in the envelope and nothing else. The guy said there was no ballot.
I know that they did say that this year alone, they received more requests than they have in the last 4 years.
How do you feel about your state government forcing you guys to go through with this election during a pandemic?
I mean, it's awful.
Right?
Never happened.
Well, I'm impressed with how many people are turning out to do their civic duty, I gotta say.
Right. Can you see okay as I'm walking through the line?
Yeah, and I see everybody's pretty social distanced.
Yeah, so far it seems like they're even moving out of the way for me.
So if you can hear me, I want to know why you're risking your life to come vote today.
I'm risking my life. I'm the wrong person to ask that question.
Do you care for an elderly person or a child?
Elderly.
And do you wear a mask when you're around that person?
No, I'm not having any symptoms, so no, and they're not either, so no.
Because asymptomatic people have been asked now to wear masks.
Well, from our job standpoint, they have not required us to.
Who do you plan to vote for president and why?
I'm not sure still.
Really?
Well, I know I'm not one for who we have. I can say that. But I'm still up between the two.
So what do? You've got, what, 20 minutes between now and there to decide?
I was saying this before,
Yeah.
you know, and then now Biden, I'm like, okay, they both have things that I can agree with. So it's like,
Medicare for all, which Bernie supports and Biden doesn't. You can see now the need for a Medicare for all system. People depending on their employers, with everybody losing their job now, they just lost their coverage.
correct. That's my higher standpoint, because that's the main point.
That's mine too.
I defend
Healthcare.
the healthcare part. And, you know, I'm also a cancer survivor, so,
Oh.
yeah, I know.
You're a pre-existing condition.
Right. I know. Oh, this is very important, healthcare.
Right.
So you know that Bernie is working very hard in the Senate right now to make sure that Medicare covers all people who get the virus, the treatment. Because right now they're just saying testing should be free. He wants treatment to be free. I've never volunteered for presidential candidate in my life. I'm 62 years old, and I'm telling you, he is the real deal. So I hope when you go in there, you make your choice to vote for him.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Same questions. I want to know why you're out here voting in the middle of a virus. If you tried to vote absentee and you couldn't.
Well, I guess it's important. I guess.
It is important.
How do you feel about the state continuing the election as opposed to postponing it like the other states did?
Did you know that? We were the only state that didn't postpone.
No,
Yeah, I know. Every other state did, but the Republican Party shut it down, the Supreme Court.
So is that a good or bad thing?
I would think it's a bad thing. I think it would have been safer for us to postpone it. They pushed back everything else. Why wouldn't they push back this?
Okay, graduate. My sister in high school done was gonna be out of the first grade. Like,
Does this gentleman want to tell us who he plans to vote for president?
He doesn't know yet either.
All right,
Who
well,
wants to legalize marijuana? There's only one president that wants to legalize marijuana. Ooh, Bernie Sanders.
oh yeah.
he thinks that people who are in jail for marijuana offenses should be the first ones to get the license to sell illegal pot.
Did you hear that? Because that was my biggest concern. So what happens, and I don't want to name names like people who I know or whatever, but what happens to people who are selling it? So then are they put out of a job? Because then I worry about them. It's not like you can go frickin' collect unemployment if you're put out for, you know what I mean?
No,
But
they
if
can
he's
apply-
saying that the people who are selling will be the first people that are will be able to sell it legally, and it will help our roads, it'll help our schools, and you'll get freaking health insurance for doing what you were doing anyway, but you don't have to worry about dodging people.
I can't vote, and I'm so upset. But if I could, it'd be all about the right decision.
Is that because you have
What more can you bring to the table
Right.
for us?
Right. It needs to be about
I'm gonna
us.
be that person that can't vote. That talks to my people that can vote about situations.
I
That
appreciate you. Do you mind if I ask why? Are you, what do you call it, disenfranchised? Right. And you know who wants to wipe that clean? Sanders.
Yeah.
Right.
What happened to the Sanders campaign in Wisconsin after the coronavirus?
They left. I actually had 2 campaign staffers staying with me. They got a phone call. One of them left that evening. The other one left a day later. I believe it was because that is what the campaign from the top called for them to do. They sent everyone home across the nation. So the way that we were to get out the vote changed. We were no longer asked to knock doors, to do any kind of events. They switched entirely to doing virtual call parties, which I'm sure you know.
Yeah.
I kind of went rogue because after losing in 2016, I wasn't ready to lose again and to go through that heartache. So I took all of the literature from the office and I went out on my own.
Now, let me ask you something. How are you going to feel if Bernie loses Wisconsin and succumbs to all the pressure that he's getting from the establishment and drops
Right.
out?
I'm going to be frustrated, but there's a part of me that knows that this ultimately is bigger than him. This isn't just about him. This is about us. And so I feel like if he can't handle it, if he can't use his big boy words, and he can't, for whatever reason, I can't even imagine what it is. If he can't stand up for himself and for us, then we just need to do it for ourselves.
What are you going to be working on at that point between?
That's an excellent question. As long as he's in the race, I'll keep pushing it. I'll keep putting literature in mail or newspaper boxes. I'll keep up with putting the signs up in the city so that people hear. I'll keep talking to people. I'll keep doing whatever I have to do. When he drops out, I'll need to reevaluate.
Would you vote for Biden?
No, I will not vote for Biden, and I did not vote for Hillary Clinton.
Yep, me neither. I wrote in Bernie, and
So did I.
he was a certified write-in candidate in California, but this time I think I'm going to vote for Howie Hawkins, the Green Party.
And I know that Howie offered him the Green Party ticket, so I'm not sure, I don't know.
He did that on my show. I asked him to.
Between you and I know you're recording this, but I have very little faith in the system. And I think it's time for an overhaul.
Well, I was part of Occupy, and ever since Occupy, I've agreed with Chris Hedges, who calls for mass nonviolent civil disobedience.
Yes.
And I feel like this coronavirus pandemic is a once-in-a-century thing.
Yes.
And we should be using it to take to the streets. We should be doing
Absolutely.
First of all, we should be doing a rent strike. Then we should be doing a student debt strike. And then we should just do a general strike.
Sorry. I agree. I think that now is the time. I think the economy is about to tank. Everything's going to crash. And if we don't stand up and take charge now, who knows when it will happen again.
Right.
But we need to realize as the people that we have the people. There's so many more of us than there are of that. People just need to be willing to take that risk.
Well, thank you for coming out tonight.
Absolutely.
And, being on my show and talking with these Milwaukee voters. Let's keep our fingers crossed that he does well, that people don't get the virus from voting, and that we have a better world next year.
Amen. I do feel like maybe we won 3 voters this evening now.
Yeah, I think between you and me, we tag teamed it.
I think we did pretty good. I appreciate you for that. So thank you.
All right.
All right, talk soon.
Stay safe and go home.
Thanks, I am.
All right, good night.